The movie starts on a basketball court, where the game begins as soon as the whistle blows. The Wolves struggle at first, but they make a comeback at the last second. On the coach's command, Dean passes the ball to Mason, and Mason makes the winning shot. But as he throws the ball, he sees a scary, dark shadow in the crowd. It is a monster, not a human. Seeing this, Mason panics. He runs into the locker room, takes out an old box, and smashes it. He doesn't know what it is, but breaking it makes him feel a little better. When the team arrives, everything seems normal, and they begin celebrating their win. But later, as Mason takes a shower, black smoke comes out of the drain. It takes the shape of the scary monster he saw on the court. This time, it is burning like hot coal. First, it reaches out and chokes Mason. Then, it shoves its burning fist into his mouth, burning him alive. The monster escapes the bathroom, his friends watch but cannot save him. Mason burns to death. In the next scene, we meet a new girl named Chris. She is a new student at the school. When she arrives, she notices that all the kids are staring at her strangely. She is given Mason's locker. When she opens it, she finds the same antique piece that Mason had broken. Mason's friends then arrive and start picking on her. They say, "You cannot use this locker because it belonged to our friend." They make fun of her. But then, a girl named Ellie steps in to help. The bullies get angry and start teasing Chris even more. Chris gets very angry and hits one of the boys. A passing teacher sees this happen. Chris gets detention on her first day. But Ellie supports her and tells the teacher the truth. Because of this, all the bullies get detention as a punishment, and Chris is saved from trouble. Even so, Chris does not thank Ellie. Instead, she says, "I didn't need your help." Poor Ellie walks away feeling sad. Now Chris is standing alone. She takes the antique box out of her locker. When she opens it, she is scared. Inside, she finds a small skull. As she touches it, she realizes it is not a real skull. It is actually a whistle shaped like a skull. As she looks closely at the whistle, she hears strange, scary noises coming from it. But she ignores them. She thinks about keeping it, but suddenly the school bell rings. She puts it away and goes to class with the antique piece in her bag. When she puts her bag down, the piece falls out. Another girl complains, "Sir, look at what she brought to class." Chris politely hands the antique to the teacher. She explains that she found it in her locker. The teacher is very surprised by the object. He begins to look at it closely, and all the students gather around. Looking through a magnifying glass, they find words written on it. It says a strange phrase. One girl searches for it online and explains that it means calling death. The teacher tells them all that it belongs to the school and he will keep it. After that, the students leave. When the teacher checks the antique's price on his laptop, he is shocked to see it is worth thousands of dollars. The students have all left the school, but a boy named Ray realizes he left his book in class. As he goes back to get it, we see the teacher alone in the room. He is looking at the whistle because he wants to see if it works. As soon as he blows it, the loud sound shatters the window glass. The teacher does not realize that the whistle caused this. He thinks something broke outside. When he goes out to check, Ray walks in. While picking up his book, Ray notices the whistle. When he goes to the table to look at it, he also sees the laptop screen. He is amazed at the high price of the small whistle. It is worth thousands of dollars. Ray leaves the classroom, and we see outside that a boy is talking to Chris. He acts like a good person but is secretly offering her drugs. This makes Ray angry, and he tries to hit the boy. However, the boy, named Nova, pulls out a knife to stop Ray. When Chris asks Ray about Nova, Ray explains that adults think Nova is a very good kid. But in reality, he sells drugs. He pretends to teach religion, but he actually gives drugs to kids. Please stay away from him, Ray says. Meanwhile, the teacher returns to class, and opens the box, but the whistle is gone. Ray had actually stolen it, and he shows it off at a party that evening. The poor teacher searches the school for the whistle until night. By then, there is only one person left cleaning the school. The teacher hears strange noises in the halls. When he goes out to check, he sees a creepy monster in the hallway. It is limping and walking toward him. Before the teacher can tell if it is human, the janitor calls him from behind. When the teacher looks back, the monster is gone. Trying to ignore it, the teacher goes back into the classroom. Suddenly, the monster is standing right in front of him. Before he can think or run away, the monster rips open his chest. It shoves its hands inside him and grabs his lungs. Black liquid starts pouring out of the teacher's mouth, and he is killed brutally. Meanwhile, we see the kids at the party. A girl named Grace gets a strange idea. She is the one who searched online and told everyone about the whistle. She says, "I know this whistle calls to death. Why don't we blow it too?" Chris is usually brave, but she feels scared by this, and suggests leaving. But Ellie stops her, and Grace blows the whistle loudly. Everyone hears the sound, but Chris hears creepy footsteps instead of the whistle, and she is terrified. When she tells the others, they make fun of her, and Chris leaves. Later at home, Chris is doing her chores when she suddenly sees a creepy figure in the tree outside. Just then, her sister walks in with coffee. Chris asks her, "Do you see anyone in the tree?" But when she looks again, the figure has vanished. The scene cuts to Grace at her house. While doing homework, she feels like someone is watching her. But she ignores it, thinking it is just her little brother. Still, she feels scared. Just as she decides to go to her room, someone touches her face from behind. She is terrified and looks back. It is her brother, but he is too short to reach her face, and he is standing far away. To stay calm, she tries to believe her brother played a trick. But as she walks inside, we see the evil monster behind her. The next morning, the friends arrive at school. They hear the shocking news that their teacher is dead. They gather in the hall to pray for him. He was perfectly fine yesterday. Suddenly, Ellie sees a girl sitting in the chair across from her, acting very strange. Her head is twisted backward. Ellie closes her eyes in fear. When she goes to tell Chris, she realizes it was just her imagination. Later, they talk about the scary things happening to them. Chris saw a monster at night, and now Ellie had a vision. Ray connects the clues and says, "Look, maybe this whistle belongs to Mason, the boy who died. We should return it to his house. Maybe these bad things are happening because we took something from a dead person." Hoping to fix things, Chris and Ellie go to Mason's house, where they find the door open. Suddenly, in a very strange way, Mason's mother appears. She leads them into a room filled with old objects. The room is full of antiques. Chris tries to give the whistle back to Mason's mother. But his mother refuses to take it. She says, "It never belonged to me." She then shares a dark and scary truth about the whistle. She says, "No one can buy it. The whistle finds people on its own. First, it chose Mason, and now it has chosen you, Chris." Chris says, "I didn't blow it. One of my friends blew it. She believed it would wake the dead because it said calling death on it." Mason's mother explains the real meaning, that it does not mean calling dead spirits. It means calling your own death. This sounds very strange to the girls. The mother explains that everyone has a set time to die. But if someone hears the whistle, their death comes early. Even worse, the victim's body rapidly ages, to match the exact year they were supposed to die naturally. If someone was meant to die at 80, they will instantly turn 80 after hearing it. They will age and die right away. Ellie begins to think the woman is crazy. But Chris thinks about Mason and the teachers' deaths. The police still do not know how they died. Chris goes to the hospital to find clues, and sneaks into the records room. She looks through many files until she finds Mason's folder. Inside is his autopsy report. The report clearly states that his body was like a 40-year-old man's body. This means that what Mason's mother said is true. Since Mason was meant to live until 40, his body aged rapidly, and he died at that physical age. Chris is now completely terrified. She knows that she and all her friends heard the whistle, and that everyone is in great danger. Chris and Ellie run to the place, where their friends are having fun. A bad guy tries to stop her. Chris punches him in anger, knowing this is the guy who sells drugs to the students. She pushes past him to find her friends, but she cannot see Grace anywhere. Grace is wandering inside a dark maze. This maze is a scary funhouse, so everything looks creepy. But something truly evil begins chasing Grace. She sees a monster that keeps following her. Grace tries to run away, but the monster gets closer. She decides to stop running and fight back. She uses a fake weapon to hit the monster. But instead of hurting the monster, she gets knocked down. She gets up and runs again, but the path ahead is blocked. She tries to crawl through a small tunnel, but the monster grabs her leg. Still, she does not give up. She kicks hard, frees her leg, and escapes the tunnel. Finally, Grace reaches the finish line. But before she can cross it, a creepy old woman drops from above. She grabs Grace and sucks the life out of her. Grace rapidly ages into an old woman in just a minute. Grace dies right there at the finish line. When her friend Dean finds her, he is horrified. When he looks closely at her face, he cannot even recognize that it is Grace. She is gone. He then meets Ellie and Chris. The girls try to explain that they are all cursed because they heard the whistle. They warn him that death is coming for them, and their bodies will rapidly age. Dean does not believe them. He thinks he is too young to die. To calm himself down, he uses drugs and goes home. Meanwhile, we see Ray sitting alone on the roof when blood suddenly rains down on him. But a moment later, he realizes it is just his imagination. This makes the group realize that Ellie and Chris were telling the truth. The next day, Chris goes back to see Mason's mom. The mother is very sick and close to death. She tells Chris that death cannot be stopped, but it can be passed on. This means the curse can be given to someone else. You can sacrifice another person. Suddenly, Chris sees a scary vision of her own death in the mirror. It terrifies her. When the vision ends, she sees that Mason's mother has died in her bed. The scene cuts to Dean. He is still refusing to believe the curse. When he turns on the TV, he hears the news of Grace's death. He is heartbroken and wonders if Chris and Ellie were telling the truth. Just then, his door opens. A scary monster's hand reaches through the gap. Dean is terrified. He tries to slam the door shut on the monster's hand, making blood spray everywhere. He then pushes heavy furniture against the door to block it. But this is not a normal human. The monster appears right behind him. The ghost reaches out and shoves its hand straight through Dean's body. Hearing his screams, his parents run in. They are horrified to see Dean fall to the floor and die. Meanwhile, Ray decides to pass the curse to someone else to save himself. He thinks the drug dealer Nova deserves to die. Ray follows Nova to pass the curse to him. Ray finds Nova alone and attacks him. But Nova is strong. He fights back, grabs Ray's gun, and shoots Ray. But Ray knew the curse meant he would not die from a normal bullet, so he let Nova shoot him. Ray grabs Nova and tries to smear his blood on him to pass the curse. Just then, Chris and Ellie arrive. They try to stop Ray, but he does not listen. But before Ray can pass the curse, his time runs out. Suddenly, his arm is twisted, and his body is brutally crushed by the invisible monster. It looks like he was crushed under a heavy machine or a train. Now, only Chris and Ellie are left. They come up with a plan to cheat death. Ellie has an insulin kit. Chris tells Ellie to inject her with it to stop her heart. Then, Ellie must drown her in water and bring her back to life right after she dies. Chris says, "If my heart stops, the curse might end. Then I will save you the same way." They get ready to test their crazy plan. After taking the injection, Chris sees the monster of death, but she does not feel afraid. Ellie holds Chris underwater. When Chris stops moving, Ellie pulls her out of the tub and tries to wake her up. Ellie gives her CPR and uses a shock machine. But nothing is working. In her mind, we see Chris fighting the monster. The monster keeps pulling her into dark water, but Chris swims up toward the light, where she hears Ellie's voice. Chris remembers the good times with Ellie, fighting hard as death pulls her down. Meanwhile, Nova, the bad guy, wakes up. He is very angry and starts searching for the girls to kill them, not knowing that Ray is already dead. Nova breaks down the door and finds Ellie and Chris. He cuts the power to the building, which shuts off the electric machine that Ellie is using to save Chris. Just then, Ellie sees her own death coming for her. But she does not stop. She bravely keeps pressing on Chris's chest. Finally, Chris reaches the light in her vision. She swims into the light, and in the real world, Chris wakes up, gasping for air. The plan worked. But then she sees Ellie fall to the floor. The curse is now killing Ellie, and she is bleeding on the floor. Just before Ellie dies, Nova walks in. He steps in Ellie's blood and touches it. Because of this, Ellie's curse is instantly passed to Nova. Ellie stops dying, and now Nova sees the monster coming to kill him. Terrified, Nova shoots the monster with his gun, but the monster is a ghost. The bullets cannot hurt it. The monster attacks Nova and kills him brutally. Thanks to this, both Chris and Ellie survive. The movie skips ahead a few months. Chris and Ellie are completely safe and are now best friends. Chris still sees scary visions sometimes, but she ignores them. She knows she beat the curse, and she will live until she gets old. She never lets fear rule her anymore. But in the final scene of the movie, a new girl arrives at the school. She is given the same locker that Chris used. When she opens it, she finds the cursed skull whistle. She takes the whistle and goes to the morning assembly. When Chris and Ellie see the whistle in her hand, they scream to warn her. But they are too far away. The girl cannot hear them, and she blows the whistle right into the microphone. Now, the entire school hears the sound and gets the curse. Ellie and Chris had barely escaped it, but now it is back. What will happen to everyone now? Will Chris and Ellie find a way to save the whole school? The movie ends with this scary cliffhanger.